Okay, let's start. So, welcome back to all to the Economic Social Forum. And this is a special session of Talanoa. Special because the very topic of today will be the COP26. Actually, several of us were in the weeks of Glasgow, and the scope of this call is properly to report our experience to the whole community of the Climate Social Forum. So we will organize a first phase in which each one of us will share the experience related to the COP26. We'll start by the observers that were present there, but of course the floor is open to all the colleagues that maybe also follow it offline or online, the COP26, in order like to have common reflections, also on the outcomes and so on. And after that, we organize a Talanoa session to let's see what to do also after the COP26 as Climate Social Forum. As Climate Social Forum, just before the COP26, we had the second edition of our virtual Agora, 2021. That was very like rich of inputs, connection. Several speakers like bring very useful contribution to the discussion of Climate Social Forum. Actually, now we are in the process of writing down the outputs of 2021, but in the meanwhile, also in COP, we presented the results of 2020, so the first edition of Climate Change Forum. So before jumping into the discussion, I just want to like bring the attention on the process of COP in general. So I will just give a very super fast overview on what is a UNFCCC and how was in this scope the very goal of the negotiation. So I will just share the screen again. Here. Okay. So basically, the COP are the processes that are happening till 1992 inside the United Framework Convention on Climate Change. The United Framework Convention on Climate Change was born properly to tackle globally the problem of climate change that was recognized as to be caused by the activity of human communities. The convention has been ratified at first by 154 members and is based on some basic principles that you can see here in the image. So the convention is structured in 12 articles that actually defines properly the framework and all the environment in which the negotiation are like settled and fostered on since 1992. And the objective is to like create a common framework for solve the problem of climate crisis, especially in relationship to global agreements and like common solution between states. Multilateralism is the key of this structure. So I will go briefly on these slides. This convention defines two types of countries that are like inside the convention itself, that are Annex 1 and Annex 2. Basically, the Annex 1 is the one that have the major responsibilities or polluting, and the non-annex one are basically the ones that are in the process or also developing economies and so on. So this is the process of the COP since the COP number one that was held in Rio de Janeiro with the Summit of Earth, and now we are at the 26th edition of this meeting of the parties. So I'll just go quickly on Paris Agreement. This is the structure of the UNCCC. The UNCCC is like the whole body that perform and organize the conference of parties. So there is like the main assembly of the parties that are the representative of states. There is the secretariat and the subsidiary bodies that in a way coordinates several actions to support the decision of the parties. So we have, for example, the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice that is like the more technical support body that receive all the information regarding scientific and local knowledge and provide reports to the parties in order to take like science-based or knowledge-based decisions. There is the SBI, that is like the strategic body of the convention that implements strategies, plans to actually get fall down in practice what are the decision made by the global agreements. And we have, beside the official bodies, also the non-state actors constituencies. Some of us surely know some of them because they maybe are part of very famous, as is also indicated here. There is the youth constituency in which several of us are also part of, but there are not only the youths, there are the women, the indigenous people, farmer, trade unions, businesses, and so on. Each part of the civil society is in a way also represented into the process of COP in general and UFCCC. So going quickly, this is the overview schedule of the conference. The conference in the 2 weeks of Glasgow hosted the Conference of Parties, that is the meeting of the representative of the states, but also the meetings of the subsidiary bodies, the bodies that are like supporting the decision of the assembly. Which was the mission of this COP, basically to draft the Paris rulebook or the implementation of Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement was agreed in 2015, but need to be implemented concretely and practically in like guidance and sort of properly rule books on which let fall down all the articles and the wordings that were present in the Paris Agreement. This process was started in Katowice with the Katowice climate package, but was not finished. Several elements were missing. For example, the Article 6. Maybe then we'll go a little bit in deep on that. But not only Article 6 that were relating to carbon credit markets and so on, but also, for example, the topic of finance, how to cover the finance mechanism that were provided by the Paris Agreement. And basically, they are standing into the Adaptation Fund, the Green Climate Fund, and the Loss and Damage. One of the point of this COP was to cover the full amount of funds to support these global funds. The total amount was estimated to be 1 trillion, and this was one of the very points. And also inclusive action, so how to engage also the civil society in the tackle of climate change. So this was the mission. Actually, these were the main outcomes in wins and losses. I will not go too much in deep on that because I would rather prefer that the discussion goes into these outcomes. But just to give you an overview on how it was going, we can use this scorecard in a way to list the wins and the losses. Basically, and then here it comes also my experience. This COP was neither a failure, neither a success regarding the negotiation, because we achieved several points. For example, uh, from this COP as came out a draft of Article 6, that is the core of Paris Agreement, that actually redesigned the carbon credit markets and the cooperative approach in order to mitigate and reduce the emission that will cause climate change. Um, in the wordings of the final text of the outcome, that is the Glasgow Climate Pact. This is the name of the final decision. Actually, um, there was like very encouraging elements, like the statement and the agreement on fall down by 45% by 2030 of the emission, the global emission. So the wording of the final text agreed on this point, and so all the states have agreed on this point, and this is of course a good news. And other things are, for example, the bilateral agreements that have born from this scope, beside the main Paris Agreement. One of that, for example, was the one with China and USA, that strike a rare climate deal that is very important on the climate side, like on the like for reaching the climate goals, but not only, also on a geopolitical side, because it strengthened a partnership by two of the main emitters on the world, but also two of the main competitors in global economy that with this deal are going to collaborate rather than compete. By the way, even though several wins and elements have been achieved, also several like point of weakness are present in these final results. There were not an agreement on finance. Or I was told, telling before about the role of finance, and which was the mission on finance, but finally we didn't reach the 1 trillion, and we covered just a part of the total amount required, and the states maybe are not able to cover all, and so the discussion is going also to involve global philanthropy, private sector, and so on, in order to catch the right amount of money for the Paris Agreement funds. For that, the most vulnerable countries, of course, are affected by this decision, because there is no cover, for example, of on loss and damage. That was an interesting measure, mostly for the most vulnerable countries. And actually, the pledges, the NDCs that the countries need to commit for the Paris Agreement will not reach the 1.5-degree goal. We know that the Paris Agreement is stating to stay inside the 1.5 degrees of global warming by 2100. Actually, with the current plans submitted by the government, we are staying on 2.4. So we are not on track, basically. And the last and very claimed point, also from the ones that are sustaining a failure for this scope, is that the phasing out of coal was in a way watered down, especially from countries like India and China in their final statements, on phasing down by 2050. So basically, just to make it simple, the countries doesn't not agree on completely phased out, so exclude the coal as a source of energy, but rather than to phase down, to reduce the use of coal by 2050. And that's it. These are some photos that resume at least my experience, but then I also invite the colleagues to share their experience as well. So I very follow the health side on this negotiation. In fact, here you can find the health pavilion hosted by the WHO. There was the UNEA, the UNEP Youth Task Force on Stockholm Plus 50, and maybe on this point, Jean and others that are here can say some words more. Actually, was born in this COP26 a youth task force on UNEP to engage youths in and meaningful engage youths in negotiation regarding UNEA 5 and UNEP, that are the negotiation more related to the most environment side, so not just the climate, but also the whole environment itself. There was a climate march in Scotland, and very colored by Scotland flags, as you can see, and the plenaries and the colleagues from Europe and Italy and so on. And was like a very nice moment also to meet several of you in person. Finally, we know each other online by like Climate Social Forum and by other initiatives, but finally this time we were in presence. And so I was very glad because we passed this time together, we know each other, and so on. For the Climate Social Forum, and then I will end, we had the opportunity to attend one-side event hosted by Open Dialogue on Climate Change. You have seen the video in the chat, and maybe I will share the link after. And was an important appointment also to acknowledge our work. Our proceedings has been shared with several and relevant stakeholders there, the parties, the other associations, other networks, the ministries, and so on. And with all the guys that were there, we do an intense dissemination activity. So we hope that this dissemination activity can get more impact of Climate Social Forum also in decision, because this was the main goal of also Climate Social Forum. And with that, I will close my introduction, and I'll give the floor to the other colleagues that were there as observers at COP. I don't know who want to start. Maybe you can raise your hand to start on giving your experience on COP26. Sorry. So the floor to you. Who want to start? So maybe Moran, Sol, do you want to start with your experience? Or I saw also Irene. Maybe Irene, you want to start?
All right. So I'm so sorry if I cannot turn on my webcam. But yeah, as Domenico said, like many, I had the chance to be at the COP, and it was actually my first COP. So it was very overwhelming, and I was very excited to be at COP, to be honest. But at the same time, at the end of COP, it was a bit, I can say, disappointed and frustrating. But I really hope that like also for the other young people and for the other people that had the chance to attend this COP, they will still have hope in regards to the future, even though the decisions that was making during this that was made during this COP. And in regards to the decisions, as Domenico was presenting in the slide before, I was quite disappointed also about what we can say the India and China agreement on the phase down on coal, because I think that at this point we really need strict decisions, and not just these phase down and these kind of postponed ambitious goals. And then in regards to the positive, you can say, results that we had from COP, I think that the fact that the methane has been recognized and has been put also in the document is also an important sign on the awareness, and also on having a clear, we can say, clear framework also in regards to the whole emission. Oh my gosh, I don't think it's the right moment. Maybe later on I can turn on my camera. I'm so sorry for that, but I will surely turn on my camera then. And then yes, I don't know, because I had the chance also to meet Vladi from Italy as well. And yeah, Domenico as well. I met him, and also I met also other activists at COP. So I don't know if Vladi or someone that I had the chance to know would like to share his I don't know, his experience as well. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. I don't
Hi
know.
everyone. Yep, I'm here.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
yep.
Okay, no, maybe we can eventually catch some question before for Irene if there are, or you can go. Okay, if there are no questions for Irene, you can go, Vladi.
Yeah, I was at the COP2, and we actually had the possibility to meet at the end. So it wasn't my first COP. I've already been to Madrid 2 years ago, but I still have to say that it was overwhelming. I mean, the difference was that I knew it would be so, and that I expected that. And not as in Madrid, where I arrived and everything was new. So I already knew that it would be kind of overwhelming and really stressful, and it actually was. In regards of the results that we saw, I honestly feel more or less as Domenico. I don't see it as a complete failure. And not because parties have achieved really like a lot, but because I feel that there was much more ambition and understanding of the problem by the civil society. And yeah, of course, there are always some parties that are more ambitious, but in general, my feeling is that most of the parties, as also I also read that somewhere, I don't remember where, they haven't really entered the crisis mode. They don't really feel that they are there to solve or to approach something that is like really important. They're simply there to negotiate. So there is this frustrating feeling that they're not doing enough, and we can see that also in the results. There are positive aspects, as Domenico underlined, but that's not enough. So going more in detail in what I've been following, I've been following mainly Article 6 negotiations, as I did also in Madrid. And the really interesting thing about this year's negotiation is that, well, I am also part of Yango, the youth constituency that Domenico quoted sooner. And we actually set up a really efficient working group. I'm so proud of that. And under the finance working group, we created this kind of subgroup. And the first week, the last days of the first week and the start of the second one, we were actually simply following negotiations, so taking notes, understanding the country's positions, and those kind of things. Then starting on the second week, we also started to put down our demands, our point of view, and actually also our proposals. So like both some more general demands, like some bullet points in regard, for example, I don't know, what we wanted the parties to agree on, what we wanted in the text, but like more in some kind of general perspective, and also some detailed demands. So by this I mean like asking parties to, for example, delete a sentence or to add a new one, to modify some word for others. So it was actually really interesting also to meet these people and, you know, to confront, to put down some opinions that were also like common opinions, and they also had to be like agreed by the rest of Young. So it wasn't really simple and immediate. But the most interesting part of this process was actually to lobby, to make your voice heard, because it's not really, when you're there, it's actually not really simple to be to make yourself actually be listened to by parties. And how did we do that? We actually, well, we did some actions, and that's the name you will give to protests inside the COP. So you will call them actions usually. They have to be authorized, a really complicated process, but we managed to have a few of them on the last days. And some of those catched really the attention of medias. So they were really important to also to, you know, to make people outside the conference know what we were discussing and asking, what we were demanding. So they were important in particular for this. And in order for parties to know that we were there listening, watching, and actually, you know, participating to all of that. And also, yeah, the other part of lobbying was literally going to country offices, knocking on their doors and giving them leaflets, making them demands, and actually talking with them, trying to find negotiators. Sometimes we found like phone numbers of some negotiators. So we were texting to each other, like literally asking what was going on in private meetings we couldn't attend, or sending them by WhatsApp messages our demands. So it was more direct exchange of information, of position, of ideas, and so it was really a direct contact with these negotiators. And the good part of all of this is that it wasn't useless. At the end, on Saturday morning, I mean, the first drafts were really horrible. They were unacceptable. There was no environmental integrity, no human rights respected. There was really just a general frame, you know, about these carbon markets, but there was no integrity at all. And on Saturday morning, on the last day, we saw the final draft, which was the end approved, and some points actually passed into this draft. Of course, like the you know, the general structure and the draft overall wasn't like modified, or I mean, it was modified by countries, by parties, of course, during the meetings, but our voice wasn't, of course, like the main one. But still, there were some points, some words that those which we lobbied for, and they were there. So it was really important for us. We, of course, don't know how much it was thanks, you know, of our work, and how much it was, for example, thanks for some really ambitious party that probably decided to have the same position. So we can tell how much we really managed to obtain. But civil society position, at least the youth position, actually managed in some points to get there. And this means that it can be done also in the next COPs. So it's really important. I think that at least there's one point where civil society made the difference. I mean, I can't really tell about all the other points that we see them changing positive, because we don't know what other parties wanted and so on. But this single point is what our constituency and many other constituencies, for example, the human rights one, the women and gender constituency was asking for, the civil society outside the COP was asking for those that knew about the topic, was the, if you deepen into the text, we wanted an independent grievance mechanism in order for the projects that would be approved to be judged in respect of human rights and so on by something independent, not by the same process that actually approves those projects. And those three words are actually in the final text. And this achievement is thanks to the civil society. All the other words we can discuss about that, but this one, I think that it's really important. It's a starting achievement, because we have to see Article 6 a bit more detailed on this part. It's not really clear, it's quite general, but it's there. So it's really important. And so I'm optimistic about next COPs that we can obtain more, we can lobby for more, in particular also if the civil society gets into this text, because the difficult part is that you can ask for social, like environmental justice or social justice and so on, but if you don't know what the parties are even talking about, I mean, even in general, it's quite difficult to influence them. So we need more knowledge, which is not simple. It's really difficult, but because yeah, it's not simple. We need this, but we really need also to continue to lobby. And on the other hand, I'm a bit pessimistic about ambition, because this COP, it was said by many parties even before starting this conference that it was our last chance. It was really important that we had to be as ambitious as we could, because it was our really last line, you know, there was no more time. And actually we didn't see all of this. The same UK, which had the presidency, Boris Johnson, and I have to make also some names, because the Western countries are blaming China and India, for example, for the last minute modification in the Glasgow Pact, but actually they weren't as ambitious as they were saying in their opening dialogues. Boris Johnson was saying that it's our last chance, so Prince Charles said the same things, and actually they are not doing that in actions. I mean, in the operative parts, we don't see this. Also, the US, which are want to be considered like the most ambitious country, that they are back into the Paris Agreement and so on, behind closed doors, they were lobbying sometimes. They were pushing hard for a lower ambition. I can remember, for example, the US supporting to have back some RED plus credits in the Article 6, which is something quite technical, but they were supporting this. And this was bad in general, because it would give some credits for not doing anything. So we must see like real action on the words, because opening a COP saying that we need ambition and it's our last chance is not enough. And this is on the UK, on the Western countries. It's not just to India and China to be blamed. So yeah, I'm a bit pessimistic about this. Also, the EU sometimes try to find some middle ground because they needed time and so on. So we must be really cautious, I think. And yeah, that's all. I'm sorry for being so long. Thank you.
Thank you. That protocol was like a very complete insider report. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are questions for Vladi. If there aren't questions for Vladi, maybe I'll ask Moran, are you there? I don't know if you want to give your experience on COP26.
Hello.
I, I,
Hi. Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to echo what has been said already. I agree. I would like to highlight the mentions that were made that I was actually relieved by the end of COP. That was the indigenous, the youth, women and gender, and I forget the fourth one. Or maybe it was just that there were 4 times. Oh, and education.
I guess we
mm,
lost.
yeah. In the meanwhile, maybe that Moran is reconnecting. Maybe I'll give the floor to Samuel that also the chance to as I know to attend virtually the negotiation. I think you follow a bit also the finance part and so on. So Samuel, if you want to like report your point of view also uh, online as an online follower.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I couldn't follow the call physically, but I joined virtually most of the session, and of course the resilience and lab, the resilience hub, the SDG7 hub, and then the SDGs hub, were most of my participations. And of course, there were ambitions on their own levels, at their own levels. However, coming to the general perspective of the COP agendas, national agendas, I think there are little drawbacks. Countries are still limiting their efforts at achieving definite targets for the climate ambition, and particularly in Nigeria, for instance, where we had a declaration that we are looking towards 2060, which I think is just too far, because if we calculate the rate of carbon that's going to be produced between now and 2060, then it is expected that by 2083, the whole of African continent should have been carbonized, so to say. So I think parties didn't set realistic agendas. And I think the implication of this is just that at the end of the day, we're going to have even an ambition that is worse, much worse than achieving 1.5 degrees less, because the rate of things, it might just go up a little bit. But I think it is more important to just continue with local actions on our parts. And when it comes to education, the education part of the Paris articles, I think a little more awareness should just keep going on the climate message, because a little more people, for instance, in the government, really are not informed about what climate changes and the impact, and they happen to be the one on the receiving part at the end of the day, because they are the one that listens less on the voices and the cries of from every angle, from every quarters on what's the climate is all about, and then the devastating effect of the climate, and then how it's impacting social life, human rights, and economic life, and all of that. So it's more important, and I think we made some commitments on the global shifts, civil society angles, from the African civil society angle, I think, and from the human rights angle, we made some commitments, and of course, to keep pushing regardless. And then when it comes to financing the future of energy transition in Africa, I think there's a standard set out by civil society climate reality coalition in Africa. And if we must work together to achieve this, I think on our own independently, we can do something while we continue to put pressure on leaderships and governments on the climate targets. So I think looking to COP27 is going to be a little bit tougher. And so to say, the UAE, for instance, they are doing a lot to work on the climate transition. I think they've got a good plan with the EU together, and they have a wonderful plan. If other countries, if other regions can look at their pace, I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. However, things doesn't happen to look the same in the general perspective. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for your like wide overview also on like the geopolitical situation. Thank you for your insight. I think that very very valuable and on the point. I don't know if there are questions for Samuel, also for the previous speaker, if you want. What I say this now, it's an open discussion. It's like a sort of round. We are seated in round, as in Talanoa style, and we are like sharing the experience. So I don't know if someone wants to ask or intervene also on his or her or point of view. If no, maybe I'll ask to Jean if he can
Okay,
just
I can.
yeah.
I can do.
Yeah, okay.
So for my experience during to the COP, I will speak about as on behalf of the representative of the Youth Task Force of UNEP Stockholm Plus 50, and then I will for my I will say maybe we need to get trying to find some of the clues from the result of the Glasgow working program. Likewise, to the China, Saudi Arabia, and Russia denied to the current phrases and expressions, and then maybe that's a point that we need to consider about the point, but we still have the something working and try to find the clues. And I will say COP just only COP is not the international conventions. We still have many opportunities to intervene, to take the interventions, to persuade or to beg into the decision makers for the talking about the climate change, social securities, and social welfares. So I will say still we can work onto the many topics related to the this time result. So that's my experience, I will say. And also focusing about the oceans, climate change, maybe we still have to focus onto the global south as well. Likewise, more than half of the youth comes from global north. So yeah, due to many of them could not take the fully vaccinations to travel to the venues in Glasgow. So maybe we have to switch more to the online sessions, not in-person ones. And then maybe we need to consider about some accessibilities to take the voice of the youth and voice of the other sectors and voice of the indigenous. So that's my thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. And I agree. Actually, this COP has been also rated as one of the less participated, maybe due to restriction and so on. And very good point that, and very good point also the one related to the use of online methodology for negotiate. Actually, we discovered with this COVID pandemic, but we have to explore maybe more. So I saw that Sol has come back. So Sol, I'll give you just the floor.
Hi, thanks. And sorry about that. I was kicked off my Wi-Fi, but I'll pick up where I left off, which was the mention of Indigenous, youth, women and gender, and education, which I happen to also be involved with, but I also noticed that there was more mention of those topics and those aspects in the agreements than I've heard before. And I believe I'm not alone in thinking that. From my understanding, people who have been involved in COP for longer than I have agreed that although there was less inclusiveness at the table, which was definitely an issue that was across the board, it was felt at COP26. On the other hand, the fact that there was mention of the importance of everything from Indigenous knowledge to protecting Indigenous lands, to the involvement of youth and bringing youth voices to the table, and actually knowing enough examples also of members of Youngo and even ACE working group and ACE mentions. My focus has been education, so I know that there were at least, I counted 4 times that it was mentioned, either ACE or climate education as something important moving forward with the agreements and overcoming climate change globally, collectively, as a human species, and the importance of education for women and gender roles, but also that being because women actually carry the babies, the next generations of the world, and have no choice but to be inseparable from the children. And education is even more important than, and that's like part of why it's so critical. Then I think for me, that was a positive takeaway in terms of where we're going and how these dialogues are going, especially after having 2 years without a COP. And us as civil society members, I feel we have a critical role to play here. And I feel as though between COP25 and COP26, there was a significant impact of civil society at the COP26 negotiations and on the agreements. Some of us also participated in some submissions that actually, at the end of the day, had influence there. And that makes me optimistic in terms of continuing to do what we're doing, and the involvement that civil society has in the negotiation processes, as well as motivates me even more so towards, or as on the road to COP27, to be even more energized, more participatory, more involved with the actions that we've been taking or able to take, that we have access to, be it the submissions or the observations, and also between now and then, kind of coordinating and communicating with a larger number of civil society, and getting as much reach as we can so that we inspire, educate, make people aware, and then empower them with what each one of us can do. Because to sum up my thought, I feel there's so much that we are waiting for our leaders to do, for the decision makers to take decisions on. And at the end of the day, I think I walked away from COP feeling as though we really need to work together with the leaders, and have more hands on deck, actually, as civil society. I just feel, rather than waiting for leaders to make decisions and take decisions on our future, we have much more of a hand on our own future, literally, even literally texting or typing with social media, with technology. And a lot of us are the ones coming up with the solutions. We just have to make those decision makers aware of solutions that exist already and are out there.
Thank you very much, Moran,
Thank
for your like bright and positive also message. I very appreciate. I saw there is also Mita that I mean maybe at least before giving the floor to Mita, if there are a question for Moran. Okay, if no, I will give the floor to Mita that
thank
was also present at the COP. Mita, if you want to say a few words also on your experience on COP. I don't know if she's in on the laptop. Ah, okay. Okay. So no, Mita cannot is like texting me that she cannot communicate. So I will open the floor now to other intervention, also from like your vision, also from online participation or whatever. I think that you all have followed day by day what was happening there, or maybe you are not interested so much. But please, all the participants, if you can also share your points, your thoughts, and now we are in the sharing moment. So we are sharing experience with all. Uh, I don't know, Paul, Lesego, Dr. Joshi. So, Dr. Joshi, how was the perception maybe in India on the COP or okay, oh, I see Devanshu that is coming also. So we are staying in this like sharing moment. I don't know also if the other friends from the observers are want to add some points also on the thought. Actually, I want to add one point uh, is regarding also the follow up. Also hearing the different point of views. I think that the what I bring back to from this scope is that first of all has been one of the very the most difficult COP I attended, being sincerely, because it was logistically very difficult to follow and to attend, but finally we did. Actually, it reflects in a way the times in which we are. They are very difficult due to Corona and due to the several other things. By the way, even in these difficulties, some points as came out, and this is something that we have to take, but to not be satisfied of. I very appreciate also the determination and ask for ambition from Vladi and also from Samuel, because this is what is needed, and this hungriness of results is something that also resonating to the different speech that I heard during COP from Obama, that was asking to the youth and to the civil society to stay hungry, and in a way he said frustrated, intending that he wants them to don't be satisfied, but also in the words of Patricia Spinoza, that used this metaphor of the bridge that I very like. This COP is kind of a bridge from just words to indicators, measures on action. But the bridge is not yet crossed, and we have to cross the bridge still. The presidency also said that thanks to the pressure of the civil society, as Vladi was saying, the the ambition has risen in a way, even though there are still some resistances, still some hold positions also in the climate ambition, climate action. But surely what I can say is that regarding the other COPs that I attended, first of all, the attention of the media is rising. The attention of the civil society is rising. The ambition of the leader is still not sufficient, but is rising. These are my results. I don't know if there are some points, some intervention on that. Also in disagreement, please don't take it all as like asserted in the stone or something. Also, if you're not agreeing with something.
I'm happy to make an input, but
Okay,
I don't observers more. Just in the meantime. Yeah.
you can go.
The I feel as though one thing that is very prominent and very obvious globally is that there was more attention globally, internationally, and maybe media attention on COP itself than maybe ever before. And I feel that there's definitely a lot to do with both the pandemic and I feel as though it might be due to civil society. And now I don't know what is shifting, but I hope that the pressure of the eye of the world being on COP more than ever before might even put enough pressure on politicians to be worried about their next elections in different places, so that it pushes them to listen to civil society in a different way than before. And at the end of the day, it is a lot down to human consumption. And so how we purchase, how we buy things, how we spend our resources, how our lifestyles are strongly affects the climate situation, but it's system change that we need in order to overcome climate change. So I think the fact that the world is more aware that COP happens in the first place could be an igniter, kind of like you mentioned that Patricia Espinosa mentioned this bridge. Perhaps it's the fact that this existed, that this even happened, that this event, actually that this great event happened during the pandemic is a huge achievement on humanity. So many thousands of people together. And we did it. So I think the awareness being raised to the event itself is a game changer. I think that's where I feel maybe there's possibly like the biggest impact of shift that we can see outside of COP and not only inside of COP. And I think it helped to make COP extra significant on a historic level globally.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree, and I also think that the real COP or the real negotiation will start after the COP. Also, you can use this expression. And okay, I will ask once if there are some intervention. If someone want to make a comment or. If not, maybe let's think what we do after the COP, as Climate Social Forum, and as community regarding properly the next steps. And so let's make as usually we do in the Talanoa. And so Just one moment that I create the session. So I create the session for the Talanoa, so you can choose where to go. This time there is no automatic selection, but you can choose where to go. Um and basically, let's start a discussion on climate social forum itself, how to improve, how to evolve. Actually, we are two edition of that. We have created this online virtual agora. We produce some outputs, some documents, and so on. And so let's think also how to go in on the next phase of this virtual agora, also standing on what's happened during COP. Actually, our mission was to commit and to like give also our outputs to the decision maker. We reach a part of that because, for example, locally, we give to the mayor of Milan, for example, of the city in which the Climate Action Forum was born. We give to the national ministry of Italy. We give to decision maker in COP, but these are just first steps. The idea is to worldwide like spread this document in order to acknowledge also our work and so on. So how to do that and how to improve also the current process that surely it's come to the second edition, but it has several margin also of improvement. And so I'm asking to you to like think about. Now we just finished the last edition, so we have plenty of time for planning the next one that will be on 2022. So of course will not be the unique moment in which we are gathering to think and design the next edition. But let's start also now that we are fresh from the COP outcomes. So I will open the breakout rooms. Let's make 2 rounds this time. So 2 rounds of 15 minutes almost. And let's discuss. I'll share with you also the document in which you can take notes. Please take notes on what you are saying because, of course, I'm registering the conference and something is like given to the report, but it's important to also receive your feedbacks and get it on the scratch. So this is the document that I shared for receive your inputs, and I will jump in different rooms and let's go. You can choose. And just remind that Talanoa question, where we are is the state, where do we want to go is the like next objective, and how do we get there, the strategy. Okay, so Irene is in. Okay. And so that you gradually are like going into the we are back. Thank you very much for the insight and the inputs. And see you to the next gathering of Climate Social Forum. Bye bye. Bye. Thank you, Rawan. Thank you, Irene.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Rawan. Bye bye. Thank you, Brianna.